Let's move to the Western Conference, where last night the Dallas Mavericks won Game 1 in Minnesota, 108-105. The Mavs closed as a 4.5-point dog, and thanks to a robust first half, the game went over the closing total of 206.5. Luka and Kyrie, well, they were the engine of the offense. Both of those superstars went over their Game 1 point totals. Anthony Edwards, though, held under his total for the fourth consecutive game. Jaden McDaniels has been a shooting star for the Timberwolves. He recorded his third straight 20-point game for Minnesota. Known as a defensive specialist, McDaniels has gone over his point total in 6 straight. How about that? All right, Joe, after a Game 1 loss, the Wolves are now a plus 140 series bet. How do you feel about that number?
Yeah, this is the time you buy the Wolves, right? It's buy low. Now everyone, they're overreacting to what they saw in Game 1. This is your opportunity. You buy low, you sell high. On and on we go. Take a look at what happened in Game 1, right? There's all this hype with Minnesota. They come into this matchup. They lose the game. There's the big overreaction. There's the market adjustment from minus 170 pre-flop to plus 140, and that creates an opportunity for us here in this situation. It was somewhat predictable what was going to happen yesterday. We talked about it on this show. Teams coming off of Game 7 in the conference finals, taking on an opponent not off of Game 7 in the conference finals. Since 2011, 0-13. Teams in Minnesota spot work. And then they lost last night, and now it's 0-14. So now everyone's worried about Minnesota. Don't be. This is a good spot to be in. They're plus 140. You knew Dallas was going to be feisty in this series. I would jump on Minnesota here. And Anthony Edwards, his NBA Finals MVP prices dropped all the way to 5-1.
Oh.
So that's going to be gone if and when they win Game 2. I'd keep an eye on that because a lot of people like him. And if they win this series, when they face Boston, I think he'd be somewhere around 2-1, plus 220 maybe.
And now would obviously, like you said, be the time to buy Minnesota. I like Minnesota to win this series, so of course a plus 140 I would say to do that. I don't want to overreact to just one game. It's not like we have 3 games under our belt. But at the same time, I do feel more confident Minnesota closing out this series just because of what we saw in previous series, most notably, obviously, closing out Denver. Like, if this does go to a Game 7, I would still feel more confident that the Minnesota Timberwolves have the confidence, even though they don't have the experience of Luka and Kyrie and whatnot. But that Game 1 went exactly how Joe said yesterday. Even you said it, Tyler. I mean, that trend didn't lie. That trend was, after that, I was like, I can't. I have to switch to a lead.
It's hard to believe, but I am still capable of surprising even myself.
That was Minnesota coming off a Game 7, the trend that Erin is alluding to. Teams that do that struggle Game 1 the next series. You won't see these pretty faces for the next 4 days, Memorial Day weekend. So let's get ahead of Game 2 for our viewers out here. Joe, the spread currently 5.5 on ESPN BET. Are you comfortable laying that number with the Timberwolves?
Wolves, absolutely. You can lay the 5.5 here. I don't know where it's going to go. 5's the key number. It might get down at some point because there'll probably be some Dallas money, but I would absolutely be on Minnesota here. Bounce back spot. They came off Game 7 against Denver. There's the emotional letdown. There's the turnaround. There's the travel. Now they're going to settle in. And more importantly, they're going to make the adjustments. They shot 49 three-pointers in Game 1. That's the most in their 94-game season. I'm not sure that's necessarily what they want to do, especially with all the size they have down low. Cat had a terrible shooting night. Anthony Edwards was below average. I think the stars all show up in that game. I think they put it on Dallas, and we go to Big D, series tied 1-1.
I don't like the number, but I'll go with Minnesota in the first half, minus 3.5. I think they do jump out on this squad, and I also have a same game parlay that I'm looking at that I made about 20 minutes before the show that I just would throw it out there in case you're at the beach and you're, at the bar with your friends. Minnesota money line, as well as Gobert over 12.5 rebounds, and Edwards under 3.5 total turnovers, plus 301 on ESPN BET. I'm liking that. Gobert needs to be better. I mean, yesterday we loved the rebounds prop. Didn't even get close to it. You should be feasting on Gafford. And then Edwards, I do think he'll have a better game. But, again, under the turnovers, I'm not banking on the points just because Luka's tiring him out. Kyrie's tiring him out.
That is something to watch with Gobert moving forward because even though he's the Defensive Player of the Year, there are teams that are capable of neutralizing him and taking him out of the game. Like, literally, he will be moved to the bench because he's such a liability out there.
NBA,